Hi and welcome to a new video on my channel. Today we're going to experiment with different stiffening solutions for making these crochet decorations sit nicely so you can put them on your tree or give them away as gifts. I have created a little snowflake pattern for this experiment as well. You can see it in my other video and on the blog. And if you want to know more about the various solutions, I recommend that you hop onto the blog and read more about them there. There are links in the description both for the pattern and for the blog post about stiffening these. We will be experimenting with starch, PVA glue solution and sugar water solution, and we will see which one works best for which occasions and pros and cons for each of these methods. For stiffening the snowflakes using PVA glue, we will need of course some snowflakes, some rust-proof pins. I have here glass bead pins, water in a container, and some PVA glue. This is wood glue. It's the same thing. It's a bit old, but it's still good. You will mix this with water, and then when it dries, it will keep the snowflakes stiff and they will keep the shape. I don't have a lot of water here, so I will try to put about half of the amount of water of this stuff. It should be enough. You can also use white glue for Skullcrafts. Theoretically it's the same composition. You mix it up well. The water should become white like this, opaque. You should not be able to see through it. Make sure all the glue is dissolved in the water. And then take one snowflake at a time and dip it in. You can put them all at the same time, it doesn't matter. Once it's soaked through, make sure it's completely wet and then you squeeze it out. If it's not stiff enough when this dries, then you can try with a higher concentration of glue. Let's hope this will be enough for these snowflakes because these are already stiff due to the pattern itself. But if you have a floppier snowflake from a different pattern, then you can add more glue. And now we begin pinning. To pin this out and make it look like a real snowflake at the end, we begin with two opposite points and we insert the needle at an angle to the mat. So the first needle doesn't matter where it is, and then we tension the snowflake and add the second pin also at an angle so that the yarn doesn't travel along the pin. If you put it straight up, it can go up and down. If you put it the other way, then it can close in. We have this one and the opposite. Pull on it a bit, straighten it out and put a pin. The same with the last two. And now depending on your pattern, you can pin different points in the snowflake. And then it will stay that way after it hardens. For example, I can put 12 more pins into it, one in each of these short arms. You have to be sure that these are rust-proof pins, otherwise you will end up with rusty snowflakes and you don't want that. Now the snowflake is all pinned, and it should keep its shape while it's drying and after that as well. To prepare the starch solution, we're first going to cook the starch. I have some supermarket starch in here and I will just use 1 teaspoon. In a separate pan I have some water boiling and 1 teaspoon of starch here, plus a bit of water to make a uniform paste. In this state the starch will not dissolve in water, so if you let it dry out it will become a powder again. Now we will add this to almost boiling water and mix it up well. It should turn from cloudy white into transparent. You will know when it's cooked when it becomes a bit thicker. And if you want to thicken it more, you can let it boil a bit, or if you want to make it thinner, you can add some water. You should cook this solution until it has the consistency of a thin paste. You should be able to mix it easily and it should flow like honey or molasses. This is dry now, and I will stiffen the same kind of snowflake using a different solution. This is starch that I just cooked. Just like with the glue solution, we prepare a solution of starch here and just dunk the snowflake in. We also have the option of spray on starch, but I don't like this one because it's only 5 to 15% starch and Everything else is various stuff. This is good for when you need to iron shirts. So let's do this. We just dip in what we need to starch and let it absorb. This is quite a thick solution, so it should come out very stiff. We make sure that all of the fibers are impregnated with this solution by squeezing a bit, and then we squeeze out the excess. I know it looks yucky, but it's basically food. It's like a pudding. If you were never allowed to play with your food when you're a kid, now is the chance. So we squeeze out the excess. Then we spread out the snowflake and put it on the mat, just like the other one, and use the pins to put it in place. I will go wash my hands first. Using the same method, we start from one point and pin, and then we can secure the middle and then stretch. Pull, stretch, and pin. And that's it. Now you let it dry, and it should come out the same color as this one when it's dried. And you can put this in a container with a lid and put it in the fridge. It should last for a few days if you want to use more of it. And next we will compare these two with a snowflake stiffened with sugar water solution. The last solution I'll try is water with sugar. So I will make in this container a solution of equal parts sugar and water. I will put 2 teaspoons of sugar and 2 of water. As you probably know, sugar dissolves in water very easily. Adding a little heat helps, but not too much, just to dissolve the sugar. You want to have a clear solution in the end. If you want to use this method for your snowflakes, you will of course make a lot more solution, but this is enough for one snowflake that I have. Just the same as before, you dunk it into the solution, wet it thoroughly, make sure it reaches everywhere, and that you don't have any crystals left. So you can make this on the stove on a very low heat until the sugar dissolves, and then you squeeze out the excess and spread it out on the mat just like the other ones, and then you pin it in place. When they are all dry, I will unpin them and show you how they fare, and we shall test them. Now all 3 of these are dry, so let's take out the pins and check them out. The sugary ones at least didn't rust my pins, so that's a good sign. This still needs some drying time on the other side, so I will put it on the radiator. And then we have the starch. And the pins are also clean, which is nice. Quite stiff. And here we have the first one we made, the one with PVA glue. And unfortunately this one did rust pins, which means that the pins are not very rust proof, so I'll have to clean them up. This is one aspect of this experiment that I did not expect. I didn't know that the pins were not rust proof, and now we can see that the starch didn't affect the pins. So there are no rust marks on the snowflake with starch, nor on the one with sugar. The stiffness of these is similar. They are both stiff. This one could use a bit higher concentration of PVA glue. This one is solid. The advantage when using starch is that you can re-wet your items. You can wash them and then you can put them back into the starch and reposition them. With PVA glue you cannot really do that, so you have to be careful to get them right in the first time and use rust-proof pins. If you're planning on making snowflake earrings, I recommend using the PVA glue method and rust-proof pins, and maybe increase the concentration of glue a bit, because these ones you won't have to wash and reposition after you make them into earrings. But for the tree decorations, I can recommend using starch, because then you can wash them up, clean them up after every year before putting them on the tree. You can restarch them and get them back to their former glory. The sugar version I cannot really recommend because it takes a long time to dry, and if you live in a humid climate then they will never dry and they will attract critters. So as an idea, if you know you have bugs or any animals in the house, you can wash the starched snowflakes and other decorations and keep them in a sealed bag, and then restarch them every year before you put them on the tree. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you make many pretty snowflakes, and I will see you next time. Bye!